but anyway. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to the Monday, January 24th, 2022 Municipal Truth and Reconciliation meeting for Sioux. Nice to see everybody again. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Okay, so we have pretty much everybody online. Look at that.
Can you hear me, Darlene?
Yep.
Oh, good. At work then. Thank you, Michelle. Good strategy.
Okay. All right. Okay, so number one, I shall call the meeting to order. And number two, the land acknowledgement by the mayor.
Thanks, Chair Darlene. As we start our meeting, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Sioux First Nation. Chief Bull is with us, and that we are in the area of Treaty 3. And many of the communities we serve in Sioux come from the areas of Treaty 5 and Treaty 9, the Anishinaabe Nation. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you very much, Mayor. Okay, so we have Michelle, Victor, hello, Aileen, Chief Bull, and Lynn Manitowabi, and we have Joyce online, as well as Mario and Candace. So it's good to see everybody. Yay. Okay. So number three, we'll go on the agenda. 3A, introduction to amendments to the agenda. Sorry. Any amendments? No. Looks good to be. Yeah. Okay, so we'll continue. 3B, confirmation of the agenda. Anybody want to move? Lynn will move and Aileen will second. Okay. Number 4, declaration of pecuniary interest, and there are none. So we'll move on to number 5, the adoption of the minutes from our last meeting, I guess was October 25th, 2021. So I guess everybody probably got the minutes for the meeting, for the last meeting. Okay. I'm just having a little look. Okay. Education, reconciliation. There were no delegations. Cemetery bylaw. Anti-racism, anti-hate grant. Okay. All right. They look okay to me. Shall we adopt the minutes of the last meeting then? Who would like to move? Lynn again. And seconder. Anybody? Okay, Mario, 1 second. Thank you. Okay, number 6, business arising from the minutes. Anybody? Nobody? Okay. So I guess we'll just move on to number 7, the delegations, presentations, and committee presentations. There are none. Nobody is coming forward. Okay. Item number 8, items for discussion. So 8A, we have Pelican Falls Records online project through the Sioux Public Library. And that's me, the chair, Darlene Edgeconnett. I received an email from Garnet, and he was approached by the Sioux Public Library about some of the some of the online records, the work that was done before previously with Braden Tahiwi and out of Lakehead University. So I guess before it had been decided that the records and things that Braden had were to be stored with the local public library. So it was the chair for the library board, I think. What's his name? Robert
Labossiere.
Labossiere? Yeah, I don't know how to say his name. He's the one who was sorting through some of their items on their agenda. So he was wondering if he could, if we had anything to say about what was going to happen with regards to the records, I guess. Yes, Mario. Mario.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We did share, I forwarded quite a bit of information over to Mike Laverty
Okay.
from the findings of Mr. Braden. So we have shared a lot of information so far. So I was kind of perplexed when I read that.
Okay. And Joyce.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm on the library board and we just discussed this the other night. It's quite a rather complicated situation.
Okay.
This all started, as you know, back in 2016, and Braden approached our committee, and but things didn't happen, and then he left. And the project that he had envisioned grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and was certainly not going to fit into the $15,000 SHIRK grant that he had received for this. So that's when I think we decided to send it over to approach the library for it, see what they could do. And I think this is about 2017-18. And Mike went through some of the information, and he categorized a fair number of the files, but didn't. And then there were some ideas about how we could present the information. And he had some talks with IFNA, and I think Wawata, I'm not absolutely certain which ones, but then the idea of possibly some sort of a presentation video with elders speaking over it and so on. And then we hired Crystal, I can't think of her surname, an Indigenous gal from 3 area. And Mike, in the meantime, had gotten a grant from Heritage Canada to do something, in Crystal's was going to head up the project. Well, lo and behold, COVID stopped a lot of things. Crystal was able to bring together, I think virtually, I expect virtually, of elders to talk about how the project would proceed. And she, however, COVID just really stalled everything. And then back in the spring, Mike Laverty took a leave of absence and eventually resigned. And Crystal also resigned in the summertime. So essentially the library at this point had been preoccupied with just keeping staff and keeping open, essentially. Robert Labossiere did some work on it, and talked to Braden and talked to the people in Heritage Canada. So anyway, we finally hired a CEO in December, and he said, and we still don't have an assistant librarian. So at the meeting the other night, we decided that really it was not appropriate for us to attempt this at this point for several reasons. The grant, which has been extended twice, has to be, well, if we haven't anything finished, we have to send the money back end of March. And it just was totally impossible that we could do anything or even hire anybody to do a service to this. Second issue is that we felt that given that all the revelations in the last year and a half concerning the graves and the schools, that it really was not appropriate for a library, run by non-Indigenous people to attempt something like this, given the extreme sensitivity of the information. So the library now has agreed that they're going to be talking to Heritage Canada to, like, I think Robert and Emily, the new executive director, will be talking to Heritage Canada about, this is the predicament we're in and where to go from here. And so it looks as if the library is likely to be out of the issue for now. But essentially we have this information that we'd like to see something done with. And one of the things I think that this committee could help me with, because I'm on the library board and would like to take this back to them, what should we do now in terms of the information? Who should we approach about it? What would be the appropriate First Nations body to deal with this? It's still not well organized, and there need to be somebody that could help sort through the sensitivity of the process. So that's where we're at. So I need guidance. Is there any question? First of all, it's a fairly complicated issue.
I think we all kind of have a little bit of a question on exactly how much information we're talking about and what type, I guess. But
Yeah.
Aileen, I'll let you go.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just wanting to know what's the range of material that's there. Like what all does it cover? What content's like?
Yeah, well, I've only seen some of it. Like we did have a public meeting right afterwards. Not long after Braden approached us, we had a public meeting. There were class lists, class attendance records, photographs, all kinds of stuff like that. A lot of administrative stuff, and I think Mario went through some, and he was able to get some of the death records, I believe, and possibly burial. Is that correct, Mario?
Actually, I went through all the documentation that was provided to us. There was all sorts of, from everything was in there. Attendance records, like you were saying. There's also sick records, medical records. There's letters from the Anglican Church, from the bishop. There's actually letters from the General Hospital, aka the town of Sioux, because the town of Sioux owned the General Hospital at that time, and the clerk was actually the head of the board of the hospital board. There was a lot of stuff in there like that I didn't believe that was very pertinent, but there was a lot of very sensitive stuff in there. It was quite to read, and it was difficult to read through. It really, really was. It bothered me.
Okay. Yes, Chief.
Yeah, thank you, Mario, Sonny. We're particularly interested in the information at the library. I think you all know that we're trying to bring the children home that went to Pelican, also to the children that died at the zone hospital. So we have an initiative that was successful in getting funded this past summer. And part of it is collecting archival information like what Sunny was talking about. So we're very interested in obtaining that information.
Okay.
We have people that are missing, children that are missing, and families that have need closure, and hopefully some of that information could be provided in those documents. So not sure how we could go about it, but I know I saw Garnet on I believe it was CTV on Monday night. He was on. He was being interviewed about records. The government records are being released. Residential school records are being released to a repository in Manitoba, I believe, and that's another source of information. Another source that we can gather information on students that went missing. So. And from what I hear, Braden's out in Vancouver. So we kind of looked around for him, but I think he's in Vancouver. He said, "I've done with this. I'm moving on to the other projects. So whatever you do with that stuff is entirely up to the committee, and whomever. Well, actually, I think he wanted the First Nation to have it initially when we first started this process. Talking about this, and of course I said at that time, I said, well, we don't have a repository in the First Nation, and there's no way we could keep those records. So I said, we suggested maybe the committee can look after that for now, and then subsequently it went over to the library, and I think that's how events transpired.
Yeah, I think thanks, Chief Paul. Yeah, I think he came to the TRC. I guess I don't know, he didn't know, I guess he didn't know the context in the area. I'm not really sure. And then I think you were on the TRC then too, weren't you? Yeah. And then we thought the library would be a good place. Well, then it's not happening in the library either. But what I can do is I can take this, and if anybody else has anything else they'd like to add, I can take the information back to the library board and to the CEO there and say, this is what the TRC was discussed at TRC, and where do we go from here? And then, yeah, I'd like to see it go to a group where there is a infrastructure in order to do something, so it just doesn't sit there. And, you know, there has to be a program or somebody that's actually doing something with it. We just don't want it to sit idle. So that might be the answer, Clifford.
Yeah.
Yes, Mario.
The only other comment I'd like to make is when I went through all of Braden's records, every name that I could get, I put on sheets of paper and provided it to you guys for review. But I just want you to know the vast majority of the medical records that are in Braden's have been whited out. Their names have been whited out. But there's so many people. Now, when you go, and all that information comes from the Library and Archives of Canada. The problem is that you cannot get the names from them. You really, really can't. And I'm really hoping that the information that I've seen Garnet on CBC TV was pretty good. And I hope that that's true, that they're going to open the books up and allow people to look inside instead of filtering through. It should be an easy process instead of making it such an arduous task. Like I said, a dog chasing its tail.
All right, Aileen?
These records that are at the library at the moment, where did they come from? Where did Braden get them from?
I think he just
Sorry.
Did he do a thesis or for his schooling about Pelican? He picked Pelican and he just gathered information, archaeological information, photographs. I even see news clippings in there where a hockey team from Pelican went to Ottawa.
Yeah.
those kind of things are in there. There's all kinds of stuff in there, but most of that stuff won't be relevant to the project we're doing here. But we're after mainly like school records, who went to school, what year, and what happened to this person, how long did they attend, those kind of records is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
The school records have come from the Anglican Church then?
Yeah.
Didn't he get them from the archive? He probably got them from the TRC commission and from the archives, and might have gotten some from Algoma University, which has.
Well, it seems that would that be a useful thing to maybe before Braden completely disappears off onto something else, to ask him to cite his sources or say
Robert Labossiere is doing that.
Oh yes, okay. That's
Yeah. That's what that came up at the meeting the other day. Technically, it would all be quote public information. There's not, but it's sensitive public information. So if he got it, it would not be classified, so to speak, because they have, whited out any medical record.
So my question would be, would the originals have had the names in, and before Braden got them, somebody whited them out, or the original ones have already been whited out?
I expect that archives. I've gotten some archival stuff before, and they do white out any identifying information of that sort. So I suspect that that's what's happened, but we can ask him that as well. Let's write that down.
Okay, Mario. Yes.
If you go through Braden, the whole thing is that maybe what we should do is we should review Braden's notes, because when you go into there's headings, there's Anglican Church, there's Libraries and Archives Canada, he calls LAC. There's Department of Indian Affairs. He's got the Anglican Church. Everything is itemized. Everything, all his documentation are photographs of the actual documents. There's signatures on there. It's quite incredible. I don't know how he got that information. I really don't.
Okay. Yes, Mayor.
Thanks, Chair. I'm of the view that this information needs to be handed over to a First Nation organization, and Chief Bull has said that Lac Seul is very interested in it, and that it's the First Nation should then decide what to do with it and what more questions to ask. As a municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee and as a municipal entity, the library, I think it would be appropriate that we make a recommendation to, and I'm not sure, Michelle, whether we can make a recommendation direct to the library. We have to go through council, that this information be handed over to, if Chief Bull has, as he stated, they're willing, to the Lac Seul First Nation for them to do further research and decide what to be done with it. That's my view, and I.
The only issue here too is that it's not just information from Lac Seul. There's information about people from all over the north in there, so it wouldn't just be Lac Seul information.
Yeah,
I understand that, but I think it should be with the First Nation agency, not municipal entities that make the decisions about it.
Yeah, we put
forth exactly. Yeah. Sorry.
We put forth a resolution at our chief's Zoom meeting, and it endorsed Lac Seul as the lead on this project. Where the 33 northern communities are saying that we should lead, but we'll be helping them, and so the records will also speak to those communities up north.
Great. Okay. Good.
Yeah. And then the other question I had was when you talk about universities and people that do these kind of works, or is there such a thing as what do you call it? There's something when you have knowledge papers, you need to go through some sort of process to release that information.
Freedom of information?
Yeah, no, it's something more to do with universities. It's kind of privileged information, and you have to get consent from. I guess we do have consent if he's already released it.
Yeah,
I think
That-
too,
that's something
Part-
that,
part of the reason why it came to us and then it went to the library was so that people could have access
Yeah,
to that information for research purposes and for personal purposes too.
like I was talking more about ethics committee or whatever.
Yeah,
At the university have some kind of guidelines sometimes, maybe. I don't know. I think we're okay though.
yeah, I think so. He would have had to have gone through that ethics committee to do his, to do the research and the thesis. So, what, I wonder what the best route, the best way to handle this should be. Clifford, I wonder if we could see a copy of that resolution.
Yeah,
And then and I could take it to the library, and that might help them to with their talks with Heritage Canada. I mean, it just breaks my heart we have to give this $25,000 back. Maybe there'd be some way of salvaging it somehow, you know, I don't know, but
I'm sure we can find a way to do it.
yeah. Now let me, if I can get that resolution, and I'll take it back to the CEO and the library board. And I would think that, do you have someone hired as yet, Clifford, for the
We have some people hired already. James Cutfeet is the director. And we have a research group out of Winnipeg. Samya also does archival research.
Okay.
She'll be doing all the accessing of information from governments and churches and the library, hopefully. So we do have a couple people that we can talk to already.
Okay, that would be excellent. Certainly somebody who's really techie savvy and archival savvy is going to be really important here. How do you organize that stuff?
I can give you their contact information tomorrow.
Okay. And the
All right.
resolution, yeah, that's very good news. I'm very happy because I was just worried the information would just float around and not go anywhere. Thank you so much.
I'll just need your I think I need your email address after.
Okay.
yes, Ailey.
Could that, what was the money, the Heritage Canada money for, and could it be used to pay some of the people or pay somebody to help organize it?
Well, I don't know. My understanding is that you had to have a finished product at the end of it. I've asked them that if we could salvage any of it for the work that was done already. So there was some work done on it already in terms of Mike categorizing some of the stuff and Crystal reaching out to the elders. So I'll just see. I have a feeling, I don't know. That's a good question, but I can't say for sure.
Yeah, because even just to have somebody follow up what Mike and Crystal did and just write a report. So, I mean, you know, and then that might keep the money then.
Yeah. I will, I'll call the library tomorrow and just tell them that, you know, I don't know when this meeting is going to be with Heritage Canada, but I think that Heritage Canada would be very interested to know that this is a possibility. So you never know. You never know until you ask.
Yes, Mario.
The only comment I'd like to make is that all this information was derived from Braden in order to do his dissertation, in order to get his professor. He's now a professor at the University of British Columbia. So therefore, his paper, he's gone through all that information and he has written his paper. His paper is available online, and that shouldn't be ignored. In fact, all of the information that I've received is online. I don't understand why that is why we have to look for information. Go ahead, Michelle, you can explain this.
No, I'm just in line, sorry.
Oh, okay. Like for me to go online, like if I wanted to right now, I could forward you all of Braden's information. I don't know why it's so private. And it's Lac Sewell's information. It's their people. It's information on them. They own it.
Can you circulate the link to that, Mario?
Sure,
Yeah.
I can.
That'd be good. And I'll make sure that the library gets that as well.
Yeah, and Braden's final report should be, I can look for it online again, but if I find that again, I've looked at it. After he's gone through all the information, he comes up with his analysis and his dissertation on the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So he's got that available online.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So this is about what do we do with the actual original raw data? Where does it go, and basically. Okay, great. That's wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
So, yeah, so giving the information to Lac Sewell would probably help their bringing the children home initiative. And yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so we're done with that discussion. Interesting discussion.
Chair, I think Michelle has a comment.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to the whole committee. I think it would be appropriate to put a resolution on the table for a meeting, just so that it's made very clear that this is a recommendation from the TRC, because we've been discussing this information for quite some time. And I think it would be appropriate to pass a motion at this committee level to go to the library in conjunction with the resolution, the chief's resolution that was passed that Chief Bull referenced earlier. Because I believe, as everybody said on the committee already, that they should be the keepers of this information, as they're representing all of the First Nations communities north of us and their own with this project. So I think that a motion would be appropriate.
Okay.
Can you give me a few minutes to write up a motion?
I've already drafted.
Oh, you've done it. Good for you. Okay.
Sorry, I keep saying council, for committee to entertain. That the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation recommend to the Sioux Lookout Library Board to release the findings of Braden. I have to get his last name because I don't know it. I keep forgetting it. To Chief and Council of the Lac Sewell First Nation, and that a copy of the Chief's resolution be provided to the Library Board.
And I would say too that this resolution be provided to the library board as well, right?
Yes.
And can you appoint me as the contact person?
Well, that can go through you to the library.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be if this motion passes this evening, I would type a letter to go with it, and then you can deliver it to the board.
Okay.
With this motion and the motion that Chief Bull provides.
I'll phone them in the morning and let them know what's happening. I think they'll be happy.
Okay. So talking about the chat here, Candace Wendemeyer has said that spelled out Braden Tahiwi's name. So if you want to look at the chat, Joyce, that's where Braden's name is.
Okay.
Michelle, I guess. Okay. Yes, Mayor, you had your hand up.
Thanks, Chair. I was going to offer the same spelling, but I'll also move the motion that is on the floor. I'll move that.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Joyce, second. Okay. All right. Good. Okay, so we shall now go to 8B, review of the cemetery bylaw. Committee members were to gather more research on burial traditions. So who wants to go first?
So Chair, I can speak to this a little bit. Members were to gather more information with reference to burial traditions. So that's why we put it on the agenda, because it's an item that needs to be addressed. Whether or not we're going to make any kind of recommendations to council or continue the research prior to doing so.
Yes, Mario.
I would still like to hear from the municipality, the cemetery manager. I would like to know the impact of introducing this. What would it be on the cemeteries as far as an estimated cost to do this, for the effects on maintenance, their recommendation? I think it's very important that the people that are operating the cemeteries has a voice, and I would like to hear that. It's in addition to that, looking into traditional burials, there are no picket fences, there are no wooden crosses. So I don't understand why we're using the word traditional burials right now, because the information that I found from the elders was it's not a picket fence and not a wooden cross. So I don't understand.
Yes, Aileen.
Maybe not in this area, but in some of the northern communities, the fences are there in some of the cemeteries there, and wooden crosses. Where
It's the word traditional that I'm questioning.
Well, how about a different word? I mean, traditional maybe gets confused with sort of, I don't know. But anyway, customs. There's lots of northern communities that have the fences, and there's lots of northern communities that have wooden crosses because that was what was available. And I did a bit of chatting with a few folks I know, and I don't think anyone came up with a particular spiritual reason about the fences, but it's that sense of kind of containing the ground within which the burial remains were, so that it would be marked, and that was the boundaries of the grave, to mark the boundaries of the grave. So if that's it, so maybe people here might not want a fence or a wooden cross, but what am I trying to say? If it's somebody who originally was from another community and wants to have the burial here, and that is important to them, then I think that would be really important to honor those wishes. In terms of maintenance, if you go up to the cemetery at the moment, there's lots of graves where there's like stone markers and things that people have to mow around, and
they're falling apart.
And really, there's just as much. I mean, it may not add to a whole lot of maintenance costs, but if it's important to people and we're trying to honor people's customs and wishes, then I think we should recommend that we allow that to happen in the cemetery, and if necessary, ask to change the bylaws and create a budget to go with that. But I mean, your idea, Mario, of finding out what it might cost would probably be useful.
And those who do maintenance, see, and I respect that they have different methods than we do here in Sioux/Ontario, but we are defined by different rules than Indigenous lands. For instance, we've got the Cemetery Act that we have to follow, and we will be responsible. I don't care what the town does. They can write whatever they want in their bylaws and change whatever they want. But if the Cemetery Act says this, then our bylaws can't supersede an act. And so we've got to have all our ducks in a row here, not just putting out, if we're going to do it, let's do it. But it's got to be within the rules of the province that we're governed by and that we're responsible to follow.
What if the rules of the province are bad? Then we should be asking to change the rules of the province.
I tried to do that with those little ATVs. It was on the books for 5 years and with Parliament, and they just dilly-dally, and it just never gets done. You're not going to get them to change an act.
Never
Does
say.
Does anybody know what the Cemetery Act is? Michelle, do you know?
Not off the top of my head, but there is, as Mario has pointed out, there is specific legislation as to how cemeteries are to be maintained and so on and so forth. But if that's the committee's wish, then I will take it back and find out from the cemeteries person, which is Brian McKinnon, what impact that would have to our budget and implications if we were to start doing that.
And I did find information in the Cemetery Act that I brought to the committee. And the committee says, or the act says, that we are responsible for any types of anything on those grounds, whether picket fences, headstones, wooden crosses, anything. The town is responsible for its upkeep and for any liability that happen. Like in the event that something were to happen, it's a municipality that has to come good on it. We will be dragged into court.
That's
Not
correct.
the family, or I'll take care of it, but if something happens, they're gone and the town will be having to deal with it.
That's
I've
correct.
dealt with the Cemetery Act for many, many years. I ran cemeteries.
To you, Chair?
Yeah.
That's correct. And part of the problem is we're only allowed to use a small, very small percentage of the interest earned on the care and maintenance funds. So although there may be, let's say, hundreds of $1,000s in a care and maintenance fund, we can expend those monies. Those monies are with the Public Garden Trustee, and we can only use an allocation every year, which is very low, which is interest off of those funds. So we're limited as to what maintenance, unless we go to the tax base to get those funds to maintain a lot of the graves.
All right. So anybody else have anything to add to the discussion at this time? So it just boils down to the law and also the budget, from what it sounds like. Shall we move on then? Michelle, you're gonna what? Come back to this at some point? No? Okay. All right. So what we'll do now is.
Sorry, Darlene, I have a question.
Yes.
I've totally lost focus of why this issue keeps being brought up here to the Mayor's Committee for Truth and Reconciliation. I'm at a loss of what's the question?
Yes, Joyce.
Yeah, I originally brought it to the committee because there had been a woman who lived here for a long time, is now up north, and had her son was deceased, and she had wanted to do this, and wasn't permitted to put a picket fence up at her son's grave. And part of the mandate of our committee is to look at policies that can be accommodated for as part of the reconciliation process. And so that's why I brought it to the committee, because I do think that, you know, we are 50 to 75, who knows, 50-60% First Nations here, and many from the north. And I think part of our task is to accommodate the diversity of our community. And that means our laws, our bylaws, and our policies need to reflect who we are here in Sioux Lookout.
Thank you for sharing that.
That's basically why. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Bylaws were approved by council. So if somebody doesn't get their way with council, so bylaws are approved by council. They vote on it, it gets put in. It gets pushed on to the managers or the departments that run it. And then the department supports that bylaw. And then we have councillors coming in and saying, well, the bylaw is wrong. I have a problem with that. Because basically what we're doing is it's not fair to the manager, because the department and the municipality is being made to look like the bad guy. The councillors, and I don't mean to preach or anything like that, but respectfully, councillors should be allowing the managers to make those decisions. If they want any change, it should go back to the manager, and that should go to council at the regular council meeting, in my opinion. I don't believe that we should be going behind managers' backs, and that's what I think this is, to get one's way. I believe that council should support the bylaws that they introduced.
And we are recommending to council that they consider an amendment. That's all we're doing, is making a recommendation to council. And as I think we've seen, Michelle will be consulting with the cemetery's lead.
But my point is, if there's a problem with snow plowing, right? Does a person take that to the environmental committee? No, it should go. It goes back to the manager. The manager takes it to the CAO. The CAO puts it on the agenda, and they deal with it at the council meeting. That's how it should be done, and that's how this should be done.
And we're looking at policy.
Should run it.
This is a policy. We're looking at a policy. That's all. And if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. Our job is policy. The council's job is policy.
You can review the policy, yes.
Which is what we're doing.
Didn't we just introduce a new policy, a new cemetery bylaw just a little while ago? And then now we're going to change it again? How does our managers know what to do when we're trying to keep changing the bylaws continually because someone doesn't think that it's right? Well, then don't vote on it in the first place. You know what, here, this is my point. We had at one time, and you can talk to Mary McKenzie about this, or Al Shaw, we had a dog bylaw that morphed into a dog and cat bylaw because somebody's dog ate another dog, and it went all over the place. It was crazy. So anyway, they introduced this bylaw. The following week, the bylaw guy picked up a dog. Well, the guy who owned the dog went to the mayor, and the mayor went to Al Shaw and said to him, "What did you pick up that dog for?" And he said, "Well, because of the new bylaw." And he said, "That's not a dog." And Al Shaw said, "What do you mean it's not a dog?" He said, "It's a puppy." That's 1 week later. That's what it's like as a manager. It's crazy. It's a puppy. So I look at this similar to that. Like, let the manager manage.
All right, Mayor.
Thanks, Chair. I think that council sets direction and staff that the community goes in and staff make recommendations, do reports and do research and then come back to council with an informed report. Part of what we're doing with the Truth and Reconciliation Committee is because we have nobody on council who's Indigenous, and most of the people who work for the municipality aren't Indigenous. That's not why we created the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, but it would certainly be my hope that with a committee like this might make recommendations to council that share some of the opinions of the people and the thoughts and the information of the people around the committee table. And so this committee can make recommendations to council, and then council can decide what to do with it. And I understand what Mario is saying to a certain point, but while the managers run the day-to-day operation of the municipality, it is council who sets the direction. And sometimes that direction needs to be reset, and bylaws do need to be dynamic and change with the time. So I don't know where this might go, the cemetery bylaw, but I don't think it's inappropriate to look at it and have this committee make a recommendation to council if it so decides. And for staff, through Michelle, to come back with a report. I think the report needs to come back to this committee first before it goes to council. But Michelle, anything to say on the process here? If I may, Chair.
Okay.
Typically, direction isn't given to staff through the committee level. It has to go through council. So if the committee wants to make any recommendations to council, we'll do it in the form of a motion, approved carried motion to become a resolution. It will go forward to council with a staff report from myself from the subcommittee, or sorry, the committee for Truth and Reconciliation. Council will decide whether to request staff go back and do a report or leave it as is, and then we would report back to council and not the subcommittee.
All right. I guess that's about it. Okay, I don't see anybody else raising their hands, so I think we'll just I don't know, end the discussion about the cemetery bylaw for now until maybe it comes up again. Who knows when that'll be? Could be years from now. And hopefully, yes, Joyce.
Sorry, just saying, are we going to get the information from the cemetery manager, or rather the clerk, on that?
If the committee would like to get information, that would have to go through. I'm not sure what it exactly is you're looking for. If you're requesting information, that's different. If you're requesting a change to the bylaw, that would have to come in the form of a resolution to council to request that change. It's hard for staff to come back to the committee right now to say what kind of extra maintenance costs would be, because the committee has not specified exactly what it is they'd like to see in the cemetery. So we'd be just saying, okay, well, if you do this, then this, it may cost this. We don't know because you're not being definitive enough in what you're asking.
Would it be appropriate to put forward some sort of, is it recommendation from the Truth and Reconciliation Committee that perhaps perhaps they can look into what are the strengths and weaknesses to looking at the possibility of including some customary practices of the surrounding Indigenous populations, something to that effect, where it's not asking for a change in the bylaw, but examining what are the impacts if there was a change in the bylaw. And I think it would give it would sort of not take care of, but it would help the purpose of the TRC committee, in that, okay, there was an attempt at a resolution of this important issue. We looked at what the possibilities were. We've examined all the acts that are involved and the sort of the budgetary considerations, and that's what we ask the council to consider, because I don't think we're anywhere near any kind of change in a bylaw, but it's just like, okay, what if we take this person's customary practice, what do we do? Take it into consideration. What needs to happen? Because we're not at any, not at any bylaw change, but what are the possibilities? What are the, I don't know, what are the hoops what are we gonna encounter? Because at least we're acknowledging the person who came to the counselor about this important consideration. And if it, I mean, like, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't read what will happen or what will not happen, but at least we made some sort of attempt to do something about it. Does that make sense to anyone?
Good idea.
Mayor, yes.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Lynn Marie. I'm just wondering if, before we send a recommendation to council, that we actually do ask our staff resource here, who happens to be the CIO, to have the appropriate manager do a bit of a report that comes back to this committee first. And it might involve best practice or a scan of nationally what goes on nationally in other municipalities, what other First Nations or areas might have had influence in cemetery bylaws, if any, and what if there's a scan of what practices are if we ask First Nations in our area. But just sort of recognizing that I know that staff resources are limited and busy, and don't put a time frame of next month. This might be a few months or 5 or 6 months down the road. But to bring the report back to this committee first before we make a recommendation, which I think, as you've said, Lynn Marie, is we don't have a real definition on it just yet. We may have a better definition, or may not want to make a recommendation after we get more information from the staff resource. That's just a thought, that we keep it at this table for a while, but ask staff to provide some more information that we can wrestle with.
Yeah. Aileen. Yes. Can't hear you.
Yeah, okay, just I couldn't remember where my unmute button was. I think somewhere I remember there was something about Dryden, their cemetery services being approached about similar thing. So I would be willing to contact their cemetery services and see what they have been working on.
Yeah, the spirit houses, they call them.
Yeah, and that was something I heard a little bit about too. Like, I used to work in Fisher River in Manitoba, and one of the elders there talked to me about, because we were talking about cemetery customs in Fisher River, and she was telling me about in what's the name of the reserve? Jackfish. Just north of there, they had spirit tents, and she told me, described those to me. Anyway, I'm willing to contact Dryden and see what they were asked about and see what their approach has been, if that would be helpful.
Yes, Mayor.
Thanks. And before I know Michelle has her hand up. I think it's appropriate, and Aileen, I think it's appropriate that staff do that, because the staff managers would have access with one click of an email. They could send a broadcast email to 30 municipalities or 30 contacts and get really broad information. And so that would be, I think, the approach. But Michelle, sorry, Chair.
Michelle.
Thanks.
It's through you, Chair. Yes, we already have all that information because we did our homework, because as the committee many of you may recall, it hit the press. The situation over the Spirit House hit the press, and that's when it went back to council, and they did include it in their bylaw to allow spirit houses. But I think, and I correct me if I'm wrong, a spirit tent, spirit house, I'm not sure the correct terminology, but they did allow it for this burial, and it is in their current bylaw. And one of the provisions, though, is they have to remove it after, I think, 5 years. Don't quote me on that, but it's only temporary. It's not there for a long period of time. So we already have all that information, and that can be brought back in a report as well.
All right. Okay, so that's good then. All right, so we'll move on now. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah, okay. All right, number 9, the work plan. So we were all sent a copy of the work plan, which has been updated. And the first one, Northway Sections 1 Cemetery Memorialization Event. Timeline, it says June 2022, and the status is ongoing for that. So did you want to update anything about that, Michelle?
Through you, Chair, if you'd like, I can just go through all the work plan, go all the way down, because there is a little bit of information that hasn't been updated. So the Northwest Section 1 Cemetery Memorialization event was that we decided that we would postpone it because of COVID. But in light of the, the children's graves and that were found in the project that Black Sioux and our northern communities are about to embark on or have already embarked on, I think it's appropriate that we wait until such time as that project is well on its way, because I believe, Chief, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're looking at that section of the cemetery as well in your work.
Yes, just a brief update for everyone. We did receive funding for $1 million to start the project, the initiative, I mean, and then we're looking at another, at the end of the day, it'll be like 4.9 million we hope to gather for this year, and then some of it might have to be deferred to next year because of Omicron and the virus. Yeah, and one of the things that ISK said, just so that you're all aware, is that they're not going to do any funding for the hospital zone site. They are strictly going to give money only for the Pelican search. So as the chiefs and myself all said, that has to be a vital component of the search, is the cemetery at Sioux. So we're trying to find ways to make it happen. So we're thinking about how we could get that search done through other means.
Thank you, Chief.
Mayor?
If you need any letters of support on that, Chief Bull, please let us know.
Yeah, we'll definitely need some for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for the update.
Next item, develop relationship with Nishnabigamic Friendship Center. I have been talking to Jennifer Thomas, and again, this is one of these things where we have to wait until we can open up a little bit more before we start planning for a community event such as a powwow. But we did have those initial discussions, and when we can and are able to do such an event, we're going to look for funding and also move forward on this initiative. The review of municipal policies through a cultural lens. Again, we've done the trespassing and the public arts policy, and we just recently discussed the cemetery bylaw at length during the meeting, so that's ongoing. Engagement with community groups to raise awareness of the efforts and issues of the Truth and Reconciliation. One thing we should have put in the status that we are going to add is the week-long activities that were done in conjunction with the first annual National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. That was on September 30th, 2021. There was significant effort to have a lot of events during that week, so we'll fill that in. And we'll just leave that open for any events that the Truth and Reconciliation Committee would like to do when we are able to open up a bit more as well. Subcommittee to review and put forward a name for Umferville Park. One of the problems we've had as a subcommittee is obtaining quorum for the meetings. So I would like to recommend to the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, given the fact that most of the members on the subcommittee are members of the TRC, except for Tom Terry, that perhaps this be brought back up to the Truth and Reconciliation Committee as an ongoing item to move that forward, because we seem to be stalled because we can never, everybody seems to be really busy, and we're having a really hard time getting people to attend the meetings. I think we scheduled 4 and had to cancel all 4. So that's open for discussion amongst the committee members if you'd like. And the last one is returning to Spirit Workshop. The Nishnabigamic Friendship Center submitted an application for the Anti-Racism, Anti-Hate Grant in partnership with the First Step Women's Shelter on November 15th. We as a staff at the municipality haven't heard anything back yet. I'm not sure, Chair, if you have, but we can certainly follow up with Jennifer to see if she's received anything, any word back whether we received the funding or not.
All right. Okay, thank you. Sir. Yes, Mario?
If I can help in any way as far as moving the Umferville Park project forward, and you guys need another member on the subcommittee, I would be willing to sit on that committee also. I don't know how we do that, but I'd throw my name in. I'd be willing to do it.
Yes, Aileen?
I like your idea, Michelle, of having that piece done in this committee rather than trying to round up the subcommittee. It seems to make more sense. If we allowed a little bit of time to that at the next meeting, that would be really good.
Okay.
That way the whole TRC committee would be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that'll go in the next meeting.
Okay, we shall add that to the next agenda.
Yeah. All right, so that's the work plan number 9. And then, yes, Mayor, did you have your hand?
Perhaps we could invite Tom Terry as a delegation to that discussion. Just a thought. He's been quite active in that field.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. All right, number 10, the next meeting date, it says February 28th at 5 p.m. So that sounds good with everybody. Yes, Michelle.
Chair, I noticed that we have mover and seconder on all of our motions this evening, but you didn't actually call a vote on the motion. So can we just confirm, of course, the first one was the confirmation of the agenda. It was moved by Lynn Marie and seconded by Aileen, that it was carried by the group.
Minutes, Lynn and Mario.
Okay. The next one was the adoption of the minutes moved by Lynn Marie and seconded by Mario. Okay, and then the other motion that we read out with reference to the records that are being held at the library to be recommend to have them transferred to Lac Seul First Nation, that motion. I believe it was moved by Doug, seconded by Joyce, if we can find out if that's carried officially. Thank you.
An interesting technique, Chair. I think I'll try that at council. We'll have a mover and a second, and then if I don't call the vote on motions I don't agree with, and I know it's going to go the wrong way, we just.
Okay. Yes, Joyce.
Yeah, just a question. I thought we might get a report. What's happening with the Lac Seul flag, Michelle? The flag, we were getting the flagpole.
We do have both flag poles, one for between here and the library in that center island. And the second flagpole is in as well for the Tourist Information Center. Staff just didn't have time to erect the poles yet, so that'll be done this summer.
All right. Okay.
That'll give me time to order my flags.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending this meeting. And the next meeting is February 28th. Put that on your calendars. And number 11, motion to adjourn. Lynn and Chief Bull. Okay, so all in favor?
If we don't vote, we can just stay in session for